first tournament of death. What were your thoughts going into that? You know what I mean? Where like you're like fuck. You know what I mean? It's really that we're you know what I mean? We're gonna do this to a level like Japan style.
Yeah, I was ready to rock, man. I was pumped. My biggest disappointment, which was ongoing with CZW, was oftentimes I don't know what's happening until the day I get there,
Mm-hmm.
and that really ticks me off because my best matches in CZW were always the ones where I knew ahead of time, and I'd think about it and I'd
Right.
come up with ideas. But oftentimes it's like you get there, what's happening? I don't know. And, it's like match to match. I didn't even know what was going to happen, that I was going to go to the finals or anything like that. So, um, but just came in with a lot of energy and um, you know, Jimmy, I think he did a good job, and Messiah, of course, I knew him and that he was going to do well, and so yeah, I was really happy with that show.
What are your memories like? I'm sure you've seen the video. You know what I mean? Like filming it, it's like, okay, we're gonna run the fuck out of light. You know what I mean? Like you're a film guy. It's like wow, can we pick a worse place to like film this? You know what I mean? You know, we have like one light on the roof and like, you know what I mean? Not trying to be pushy, like, okay, hey, let's get started. Just we have no light, or it's gonna look really bad.
Yeah.
But because that's the weed whacker spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like,
I remember you guys so upset that you only had like one angle of that.
right.
But it kind of made it more iconic, honestly, I think, is just the fact that you just have this one devastating shot of it. Instead of like, here's the 7 angles, and here's the slow motion, and here's this. It's just like, here's this one, ghastly shot of it.
And the light worked for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where you're like so worried about like, there's going to be no light, but you just see the blood with the shadow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That worked out, but I totally understand the frustration of not being able to quite capture it and having the lights and everything. Yeah.
We're like, it's raining.
I think that was part of, what probably gave CZW some of that kind of just like cult underground, like
grunge,
dangerous feel to it. It's just like, look what these guys are doing in this, dingy environment.
So that tournament, you had no idea, like the day of, that you were going to the finals?
No, I didn't know.
Nice.
I remember, I knew I was going to wrestle Jimmy because they had the brackets on the website or something like that. And so I knew that ahead of time, but I didn't really know the guy. And, I came in with all these ideas actually for Jimmy. And Messiah kept telling me, he's like, don't make it complicated because he will forget it. Just do not make it complicated. And so I was like, all right, he's a great bumper and a great worker, but he prefers to just keep it kind of old school and simple. And so, I kind of learned that, and it went well. It was a very simple match, but, it kind of had its charm. And bump off the truck, of course,
Right. The rest of '02, I can't remember. What your angle? What did they program you in after that? What you did the high stakes, and then after that was, I think, the tag match with the girls. What did you do into the program after 20?
It was kind of scattered and kind of unfocused, which was frustrating. Again,
right.
Like they gave me that title shot against Payne, and just nothing. Like it didn't follow up with that or anything, and there was no build up to it. I'm trying to think what else happened that year. I remember wrestling. Did a little bit of stuff with. The end of that year was the Cage of Death, where we did the ladder match again with the back seats, and when Blade came back. So yeah, eventually I remember doing a series of matches with Trent and Johnny. So yeah, we did
back into that,
kind of get that focus there,
and then going into '03.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't in as much, right, in the beginning of the year when they lost the building.
Mm-hmm.
What at that time were you thinking? Maybe it's not for me. Were you getting burned out in wrestling just with the frustration?
I think I had a couple of other bookings. That was the only reason why I wasn't there. I did a few out in California and stuff like that. But I do remember missing a show or two. But that new building, I wrestled Messiah there. I remember wrestling him and then doing a 3-way match for the Japan the Big Japan Deathmatch title with Zandig and Nate Hatred. So I
Right.
did do a couple there, but
Right, yeah. You
they're-
did both of them there then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there might have been one or two
That's
that I
where-
missed, but I think it was just because of other bookings.
That's where John killed him with the toilet seat. Broke his nose.
Broke his nose.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Just like
I remember
wow.
that.
That was rough.
Yeah, but how many times has Hatred hurt people, you know?
Right.
I don't think it's intentional, but that guy is just dangerous in
Yeah.
the ring, and it's like, I didn't feel bad. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, he's eating up a lot of guys. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
go out there and just kill him. Okay. You know what I mean?
I don't think he's, being mean, like I said, but
Right.
he's just vicious. Oh, man, yeah, he's scary.
In 03, the whole high five angle starts. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know, did you ever think you were going to be part of the babyface team on that? You know what I mean? Was that the plan that they would put you like with John and them, like before you retired? You know what I mean? Were you like, wow, this is taking off as a heel group? You know what I mean?
Honestly, I kind of rolled my eyes at the writing for CZW. You know, it's just like, that was great, you know, when they had their high five group going, but then
Mhm.
like we're like the big deals, and I'm just like, what is this? Like, I don't know. It was just kind of show to show, and I didn't feel the storylines were really building, and there was some fun clicks and everything, and the stables, if you want to call it that, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. I just wish that somebody would come in and get better storylines going that would really, really build and
Right.
stuff like that. I thought it was kind of weak, honestly.
What did you think about the whole like IWA angle? You know what I mean, with them coming in? Because I mean, you worked for Ian before that, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Did you think, wow, this is something different to like garner some interest, or were you just like, whatever?
I think it had potential. There was always some heat between Ian and Zandig that they could never fully resolve.
Right, yeah.
And they tried to, but it just never quite worked. And it was probably because of me and a long conversation I had with Ian that whole angle even started. I was working for him, and I was, sitting on the sofa at his place after a show, Sabu next to me dozing off the whole time. I was kind of too scared to even say anything to him. I never really chatted with that guy. I was just kind of, awestruck.
In awe, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, Ian, I just remember you saying to me like for hours, like, come on, you have to get an angle going with CZW and IWA. And I was like, Ian, both you and John, like the heat's between you guys, and one of you guys just needs to drop your ego
Right.
and say, look, I'm sorry, let's work this out, let's
Do
get some
business.
heat going. And they kind of, half apologized or whatever, but they were still, they hated each other.
Yeah,
you know,
it was like, yeah, I'm sorry, whatever, I fucking hate you. You know what I mean? It was one
yeah,
of those.
and so it's always a question of who's going to win from what company, whose wrestlers are going to win. And so,
Right.
it was kind of dysfunctional to begin with, and I don't think that ever really took off,
Tournament of Death 2.
Mm-hmm.
Going into that show, what were your thoughts?
The only thing I knew about it, again, I didn't even know until I got there that I was going to win the thing, and I think it wasn't even until, I knew I was going to wrestle Ian, so I guess I found out maybe 2 weeks before, something like that, I was going to wrestle Ian, and so I figured it meant I was going to go over, but I still didn't even quite know, but the first thing I knew is Zandig calls me, and just, yo, Mondo. Hey, what's up, John? And he's just kind of shooting the small talk. I'm like, all right, what's on his mind? He's like, do you want to take the mother effing bomb off the building in Delaware? And through burning tables,
It was supposed to be
that
burning?
was his initial idea. It was through burning tables, and I said, sure. And he kind of pauses for a second, and he's like, I figured you'd be the only guy that would say yes to that. But it was funny. He called me just to ask me that if I'd take it. And I said, yeah, let's do it, man. And I'm glad we didn't do the burning tables because, when I took that, I was actually paralyzed for maybe a short, minute or something like that. Like it took me a while to be able to move my limbs. Somebody would have had to pull me out of the fire.
Right.
If that was the case. But yeah, that was the initial plan, was to do it through burning tables.
That would have been crazy.
It was actually, I showed up to the event that day, and Zandig comes up to me and he looks up at the roof and he goes, so what do you think? And I looked up and I was like, John, that's looking pretty high, man. You know, and I said, I don't know if we should do it. Like, that's pretty high. And he goes, we'll think about it and get back to me. And he walks away. I'm like, what did I just say? You know, I'm like, all right, whatever. And so I'm calling my match with Bailey in the back, and he walks up and he's like, so what do you think? I'm like, about what? He's like, tables. I'm like, I told you, I think it's too high. And he's like, oh, well, they already put the tables up. We can't take them down now. The fans. I was like, whatever, let's just do it, you know. And I wished we had been able to go up there first to scope it out, because like when I did the bump with Jimmy off the Ryder truck, I went up there like 3 or 4 times and I kept telling the guys, move the tables out.
Right.
Everyone's like, it's too far. I'm like, no, that's right where it needs to be, because we get up there and, you know, we're walking to the edge when John's carrying me, and the last thing he says, he's like, tables are too close. And I'm just thinking, great, that means I'm going to hit the ground because I'm going to overshoot, but like, you know, they were too close. They needed to be out farther, so yeah.
Being up on the roof, because there was me, you, and him, you know what I mean? I was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Just going up there, I was like, wow, we're really far up here, you know what I mean?
I got that feeling too. It's just like, this is awfully high up here, but
it's like, don't step on the skylight, you know what I mean? It's like, just it had those skylights where it's just like a 2x4 across it. It was like, so if you stepped on the skylight, you went through, you know what I mean? Like, okay. Yeah, it was like,
this is just a little glimpse of Zandig's insanity, but I remember we're up on the roof about to do this ridiculous bump, and like after we both hit each other with tubes, he goes down and takes a blade and just opens his head like all the way across, and he's like, open me up, and I'm just thinking, what are you doing? And so he wanted me to sock him a few times. I'm just like you really need to like catch yourself. Oh, that was just insane.
When you're at the edge, were you just like, oh, you know what I mean? Like,
I was nervous, but a lot of times with those big bumps, it seems really bad, and then it's just like, that was it. You know, you take it, and it's like, okay, sell it. You know, make it look bad. So that one, like, I just kind of told myself, all right, you know, it's just going to be like you feel a couple tables ground and that's it, you know, sell it. And so I actually did. I was scared, but I relaxed like right before, you know, we went, and you know, right when we were in the midair, like I blew my breath out. You know, it's how you keep from knocking the wind out of yourself. In midair, you always blow your breath out. And I remember not even feeling like table. It was just like more just one slam. Like my head hit the tables and the glass and stuff, but I just straight to the ground, and oh, that was bad. Yeah, that was really bad.
And that was only the second table, because then it was one apiece.
Yeah,
because you had to go in and put him to the. Were you just
2 out of 3 light tube log cabins, which again, that one wasn't even really articulated, so the fans were all kind of like, what? Like they didn't even really know the rules of the match, but it was first one to put the opponent through 2 out of 3 wins. So
when you got up from that point, were you like, you know what I mean, were you thinking like, okay, I gotta put him through a table and then I got another match?
That was the only time in my whole career that I really thought about saying I just can't go on. Like, I remember the first thing I said, I was laying there and I could barely even move, and finally I could talk. Like I didn't even know what was going on, and it kind of returned to me, and John asked if I'm okay, and I said, can you get off my arm? Because he was laying on my arm, and I remember there was a bunch of broken glass, and it was just sticking into my shoulder. There's like some shards from a light tube, and he's like, oh, sorry, and he rolls off my arm, but I was just laying there, and I was really thinking about telling him, like, John, just take it, like, take the match, like, I can't do it. But then, like, I had already known that I was going to quit after that, and, like, hardly anybody did, and so I just kind of said, all right, this is it, you know, and I just kind of pulled myself together, but yeah, I was in bad shape, man. That was bad.
Like, going into that day, you knew that was your last day?
Yeah, I knew that was going to be it.
Okay, so
yeah,
it wasn't like that moment didn't go, okay, today's the last day.
No, it was planned. I told people, you know, that's why when I came out for that event, I wrote dead across my head. So I planned on killing my character that day, like literally. And I figured people would just think it's because it's, you know, a death match tournament.
Right.
But yeah, that was the plan from the get-go. And it wasn't from injuries from that show or anything like that. You know, I was in bad shape, but, you know, I healed up within a couple of months and I would have been fine. But, yeah.
So you have the finals with Ian. What was that like? Were you just like, "Do we make this short, sweet, get me the fuck out of here"?
You know,
or
there aren't a whole lot of things I really look back on and wish I could like totally redo, but I totally wish I could redo that. But I was in really bad shape.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, you had blood pumping out your side.
Well, yeah, I was completely out of it in the back. I remember like one of my first. It's just like kind of blurry, like what happened in between. But like I remember sitting on a stool and like the nurses were tending to me, and the one of them like gasps just, and I was like, what happened? And I was spraying blood out. She had pulled a shard of glass out of my back, and it was just like pumping out, and it sprayed on her arm and everything, and they were trying to stop it, and they couldn't, and they were trying to send me to the emergency room because the bleeding was so bad, and I told them I'm not going, like I want to finish this, and it was again because I had already decided it was
Right.
going to be the end, but like my friend Larry Morris, Lars,
Right.
he was there taking pictures, and it's funny. He was like, yeah, when we were talking in the back, and I was like, we were talking, and he's like, I didn't even remember it. I couldn't believe it. And he's like, yeah, you seemed like somebody who had just woken up in the morning and didn't know what was going on, and I can recall Ian, like when we were calling the match, and I just kept spacing out, and he just kept saying, can you do this? You know, are you sure you can do this? Like, do you want to go on? And I said, yeah, let's do it. But I mean, I was really in bad shape. I had really rung my bell, and you know, I was really beat up. And so, yeah, that last match, man, like he was just kind of hand feeding me, you know, calling it as we were going, and I thanked him, you know, so many times for that. Just like I seriously didn't even know what was going on, and like he wanted to do his chair shot from hell, and I told him I can't take that, you know.
Right.
Actually, he knew that at that point, seeing how bad a shape I was in. I was like, that probably just completely put me out or something. You
Right.
know, my head was just so scrambled, and so, yeah, I wish I could have had a better final match, you know, because the second one with Zand, of course, had the big bump, but otherwise
Right.
it was just kind of a, you know, it was a stupid match.
Now, did John know that day that you're done, or like?
No, he said afterwards that he had a feeling, or he heard from somebody or whatever. I don't know, but not a whole lot of people knew, like hardly anybody. So, yeah, no, I didn't tell anybody. Maybe just a couple going into that.
And like, when did he find out afterwards? Just to call and see how you're doing?
You know,
Or did you kind of like play it off like, time done, or?
That was really just such a back and forth thing in my head. I can't even tell you. Like I kept thinking there's always something else you want to do in wrestling, you know.
Right.
And it was, I don't know. I knew I was going to let him down and everything, and so it was finally like a few months went by. I'm just like, no, I just, that's it. And so I called him up and told him, and that's when he said, yeah, I kind of figured that was it. So. Yeah.
So for him, it was kind of like out of left field. You know what I mean? He was like, you know,
he
like,
claimed it wasn't, but I think because you know it wears on you doing those kind of matches,
right?
And people kind of step out and come back and
right.
everything.
It is a high burnout factor. You know what I mean? Like you're killing your body. It's like
and so he probably figured, you know, eventually it's going to happen, but. I think it did kind of surprise him, honestly. You know, he probably thought I'd take a couple months and heal up, which I did.
Right.
But then, like, I was healed up and I was, you know, feeling strong again. But I was just like, no, I that's it, you know.
Did you feel like I went out on, like, you created that legacy in such a short span of time? Where you're just like, did you ever feel like if I go back, I'll tarnish like the legend? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, that temptation's always there, and. You know, fortunately for me, I think people remember me as being better than I actually was. You know, I don't think I really ever quite came into, you know, peak. You know what I could have done, and but had I stayed and continued with that style, I mean, who knows what would have happened?
Right. Yeah. But, like, okay, this time we're gonna jump out of a chopper, bounce off the roof into the ring. You know what I mean? It was like, were you just like, you know what I mean, like. I think you created that legend by like going away when you're on top. You know what I mean? Because then there's always like, oh, you know, I want Mondo to face this guy. You know what I mean? Like you, kind of like created your own, like made yourself kind of like that hardcore icon. You know what I mean? Or ultra violent icon.
You know, and none of it was really intentional either. It was just, You know what people don't realize is from the beginning, my plan was to do 1-2 years tops, probably wrestling.
Uh-huh.
Again, I thought I was going to finish school, go to ECW, have a blast for a while, and then get on with my life. I ended up staying for almost 5 years, so that's a lot longer than I was even planning on. You know,
Right.
but I never thought it was going to be a lifelong career, which is why I went so hard on myself. I was just like, let's just empty the tank and go nuts and get out. You know?